And so now I'm going to go ahead and pop these brake shoes off. I got special tools for drum brakes. I bought these back when drum brakes were on everything. Everything had drum brakes. Disc brakes were far and few between. Even cars that I worked on back then had drum brakes in the front wheels. So do this on camera and get these pieces off of there. Show you how I do that with this old stuff. This tool here just got a hole in it, and it's got a hook on the outside, and it sits over this knob, and you just twist these springs off of there like that. This one here is a little bit different, but I should be able to get it with this just the same. Since it's been so many years since I've done it, I better take pictures with my phone of how this stuff goes together so I don't have a problem putting it back together when I put it back. Leave that parking brake together as much as I can. Now it's time to hold my finger behind the pin in the back. Take this cap off of here with this tool here. And there's the pin in the back. This little spring fell out. I know it goes behind here. And this emergency brake, you can force this out and get that spring off of there, or you can just go ahead and screw this thing back in all the way in, and if it'll turn in. Might have to pull this spring back here with a vice grip or something to get it unhooked off of this parking brake thing. It's going to fight with me. I got to get the camera out of the way so I don't knock it down. I got it off. Now when you're just changing brake shoes, you don't do that. You leave it hooked onto the cable and you just take it off the little C-clip in the back here and leave this on the cable and put this whole thing back on your brake shoe. But we got to get this thing off of this backing plate, get this backing plate off of here. So that's why I had to do it that way. I took the brake line off, but it would not come off without the ends breaking. They were seized up and rotted and rusted together, but that's okay. I have everything I need to make up new brake lines anyway that won't rust. They're made out of a copper alloy. So now I show how to get that off of there and how to get this off, which I really didn't have to take off on this one. I will on that one. This one I didn't need to because it's cut off here anyway, and I'm going to take these plates off. So what I'm going to do now is take these 4 bolts off, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Well, I got 3 off. This one's not coming off. I don't want it to break, so I'm going to have to torch it in here. Heat that up with a torch, and then I take it off after that. Okay, got that off of there. And all I did was heat up the outer corners of this a little bit. I didn't want to heat up too much inside and get this all hot inside where that oil is. Well, it's just a film of oil inside. There's not much, but still I didn't want to damage it. I just heated up the outside a little bit, and then it expanded this outer part enough that the bolt was able to start coming out. I did all that stuff on the brake shoes and everything on this side just to show how to do that. On this side, I'm just going to take these 4 bolts off and pull all of this off of there as a one complete unit, because everything's already cut. The brake lines are already cut. The parking brake is cut. We'll just pull that off, but we got to carefully take it off on this truck, but I'll probably just do that without the camera, because you saw how I did it over here. Got this thing stripped down about as far as I'm going to go. I still need to clean off some of this rusty grease and stuff, and some of this dirt that's caked up on it. Brush some of that off of there a little bit. But I'm ready to start jacking this truck up and get ready to start taking the one off that's on there. These brake lines are seized up on this truck. They're not coming off. They're rusted into that. This one came off because it's been replaced, and it's copper. It was tight, but it did come off, and I stuck a makeshift plug. It's just a union with some silicone glue on one end of it, and I just stuck that in there. It goes here on this hose. It goes right there. But I took that, got that out of the way. These I'll just have to make up new brake lines and put them on. And so anyway, I'm ready to take the wheels off and then take these brake plates off. We'll just have to cut these brake lines. Well, I mean, I'm going to copy them, so I need them off of there so that when they, I'll break it off up here, and then because I want to copy the brake lines so that I can have a template to make my new ones. So I'm going to go ahead and take the wheels off and then start taking this stuff off of here. I'm under the axle on the truck there, trying to back off the brakes a little bit. And what I'm doing is reaching through this hole here from the back side and trying to turn this star wheel. And what you got to do to loosen it up is turn it the way it does not want to go. And that's hard to do, but it's the only way you can back off the brake. And as you can see, the way this one is, the way this spring-loaded bar here, adjusting bar, it's a ratchet thing, and it's leaning against these teeth. And so these teeth will move to my left, and this will just bounce over them. And that's how you tighten it. But when you go to loosen it up and try to turn it backwards, then it jams into this and it doesn't want to turn. Not only that, but you got dirty threads here that are trying to screw back into this piece here, and they don't want to because they're dirty. So it's going to fight with you, but you got to do the best you can to do that. And I'll show what I'm doing here. And you can turn it one way and see if it moves, and then if it doesn't move, it's probably the right way. If it does move, then you're probably going the wrong way. So I don't know if we can see inside there and see that star wheel. We can, it's there, and you see the threads on the left side of it. So that's what I'm trying to turn, and so it's got to turn the direction it does not want to go in order to loosen up the brakes. It doesn't have to go very far, just a few turns, unless your drum is all worn out and you got a lip on the edge of it. Then you got to fight with it all the way down. Well, I got just about maybe 5 or 6 clicks and fighting with it backwards, and now this drum is coming right off. So we're okay. I've got just about everything off these brake cables, I'm going to try to leave them on there. I'm going to try to cheat. Got the drive shaft off. Got all the bolts off. The only thing I have not taken off is these 4 bolts here for the whole braking plate. And what I'm going to try to do is get a transmission jack underneath that differential, and I'll cut these bolts off here. And what I want to try to do is lower this thing down and roll it on the transmission jack all the way over to one side, get this brake off over here, let it hang down, roll the whole thing back over to this side, take the other brake off, because these cables are only going to let me have so much room. It'll save me from taking a bunch of stuff apart in here and putting it all back together again and fighting with it, because I have to fight with that spring inside this lever, which is not easy to do. So that's what I'm going to try to do, get a transmission jack out here and do it that way. And after I get a transmission jack underneath there, then I got to go ahead and cut these U-bolts off on both sides. I got the transmission jack under there, and I got some wire tied, some cables tied onto the transmission jack plate over the top of the axle there to there's a black one on this side and a red one over there on that side, to try to keep the thing from tipping to the left or the right once I cut those U-bolts off. And I'm getting ready to cut those off now and start lowering this thing down. And then like I said a little bit ago, I'm going to try to roll the thing to one side, like to the left, and get the brake off of the right side, and then roll it to the right and then get the brake off the left side, let the brakes hang, roll this thing out, put that one on here on the jack, and then just start putting everything back together. I had enough brake cable to get these things off of there. I had to unhook them from their hangers up here. This one's kind of spring steel. I couldn't just bend it out of the way. I had to bend it down, get the cable out of it with a big screwdriver, and then when I turned it loose, it springs right back up because it's spring steel. This one was just hooked over the top of that. Got that off of there. That one goes to the other side. So I did not have to try to slide this thing left and right. I'm ready to cut those U-bolts. Of course, I'm not going to do that on camera, but I'm just going to take a cutting torch and cut those off of there and then knock them out with a hammer. The U-bolts are all cut, ready to lower the jack and see if this thing comes out of there the way I'm hoping it will. It's down as low as the jack will go. This right side, passenger side, it needed a counterweight. It was tipping to the left over there, so I put a axle shaft back in it over here on this side, and that now we got a little gap between the axle and the spring on both sides. I'm going to take these saddles in the shop and clean them up. Rest this stuff off of there. That's your center bolt, that line that goes inside this hole here, and then the bottom, the center bolt comes out the bottom, so it holds your springs together. That lines up with this hole here. Got the old one off. Got the other old one that's getting ready to go on. I can't call it new. Got the different one mounted up and ready to roll underneath there, and get started putting it back together. I'm not going to show putting anything together to speak of unless I run into a snag, and I think it'd be good to share with you guys, but otherwise I'm just going to put it together. But I am going to do like wheel seals this particular hub has a lot of grease in it, and so I'm going to clean that out, put new wheel seals, bearing seals in there, axle seals, whatever you want to call them. So I might do some video on that, but as far as putting it back together, I'll just go ahead and put it together, and I'll probably add some little tidbits along the way, but I'm not going to show every little move I make. Okay, I'm running into a little tiny snag right now over there on the right side. That that hole on the axle is supposed to go in where the center bolt is lined up over there, but on this side it's the leaf spring is too far outside, just 3/8 of an inch, maybe half an inch. I'm just going to smack it with a sledgehammer. I got just a little bit of tension on it with the jack. I'll smack it with a sledgehammer. Hopefully that brings it over enough and falls into place. If not, I may have to put a come-along on there and pull it across. Well, the hammer did it, knocked it into place. So all I got to do now is jack it up with the transmission jack and then put the U-bolts on it. I'm getting ready to start making these brake lines, and I broke it loose with a crow's foot line socket, 9/16 in this case, and I'm working the rest of it out with just an open end 9/16. And this thing is standing up like this, so I can just spin this thing around as it needs to go, and get that off of there. And then I'm going to make a copy of it, because this is seized up right here. The nut is seized up on the end of the brake line, so if I try to put this on and change it while it's installed on the truck, it's going to be a nightmare, and I'll never be able to copy all of these curves in it like I can if I just take it off straight. And then after I get this off, I can install this, because the new line will have a nut that spins loose on there. But anyway, that's how I'm getting it off, and that's why I'm doing it in this position instead of after it's mounted. I'm copying the old brake line. I got it clamped in a vise. I just found a good spot to clamp it where I can copy it right on top of the old one. I got a roll of, this is 3/16 copper alloy, copper nickel alloy brake line, and I got a flaring tool in the vise there, and I got a bender here. I really probably don't need the bender because this stuff bends pretty easy, but I just cut off a piece a few inches longer than what I need. I leave some hanging out because that's where I'm going to put the end on there that needs to get flared and screwed into the wheel cylinder. And so I'm going to copy this and just put a piece of cheap duct tape on it every so often to hold it in place. And this bends pretty easy. This 3/16 bends pretty easy just by my fingers. So that's how I'm doing that. Well, I've got it copied pretty well, and the 3 or 4 inches I thought I was leaving extra, I really didn't. It comes out to be just about right, and I'm going to leave this end of it straight. I'll bend it after I put the whatever you call this end here on there, because I need to have a straight piece clamped in the thing there to put it together, or it won't fit. I used a little reamer to clean out the end of the hole on the piece that I'm getting ready to put the end on. It didn't need much, just a little bit. I tried it out, make sure it's going to be not have anything there that's going to come off and get in the brake. This kit has a few different dies in there for different, has the double flaring and different things for the different sizes, 3/8, 5/16, whatnot. And I put my 3/16 die in here. Got my little whatever you call that. I'm going to call it a ferrule. I don't know what it's supposed to be called. Anyway, put that in there, and then we're going to put this. I'm not tripoding the camera on this job. I'm just going to hold it. Put this, stick it in here all the way up to the end of that, and then clamp it down, and then go on ahead and pull the press, and it'll put the end on it for me. Well, I was looking through the pieces of video to go ahead and do the editing, and I noticed I didn't have a finish. So I'm out here a couple of weeks later, crawling underneath to show a finish, and I didn't adjust the brakes, put new brake shoes on, and I didn't adjust them, so you got to go in there, and I showed how to do that when I was taking the brakes apart a little bit. I showed a little bit about that, how to loosen them up so you can get the drums off. Well, you got to tighten them back down, wheel jacked up, and you turn the wheel so that you can feel the drag on it, so that you get a little bit of drag but not much. You're turning the wheel by hand, and of course I got my new brake lines on there, and then I had to bleed the brakes, so I don't have a video on bleeding the brakes here, but I got it in my playlist of small trucks and cars. So I think that is all I need to do to finish this video up. So thanks for watching.